And now,
Hello, everyone. You are watching To Boldly Watch on our special YouTube recording session video. Congratulations. We're proud.
Congratulations.
you did it.
You did it.
You're a winner.
Oh, I'm way too loud again.
Oh.
Wow. Anybody hear any good jokes lately?
Yeah. Okay. So a monk, a clone, and a Ferengi decide to go bowling together. And when they enter the bowling alley, the Ferengi is just dissatisfied with the customer service and refuses to pay for anything, causing a dispute with this owner. And the monk gets ready just to attack, but is ready to jump in at any moment. And unfortunately, the owner picked a fight with a group and suffered attacks from 2 strikes and a spare.
I don't get it.
The clone was a spare. And then the Ferengi was striking with money, and the monk struck. You know, I should go back to the holodeck. I could
Perhaps
work on
I didn't laugh because the joke was not funny.
No, I'm pretty sure that it was. Whoopi said it was, so.
She also said you spoiled the ending, but I don't see how.
More like killed it.
Killed it is a good thing in my book.
Yeah.
That's right. It's the Outrageous Okona. A crazy episode where we have a rogue pilot enters boards the Enterprise.
Crazy sexy.
Yeah.
Some people say Star Trek versus Star Wars. Well, this is our Han Solo.
You know, it's funny. As soon as his ship appeared, I was like, this ship's from a different franchise. Where did this ship come from? Because we have the sleek Enterprise, and then this Battlestar Galactica looking like hunk of junk kind of comes in. It is also Millennium Falcon-ish, too. I agree.
And it goes further than that because the Millennium Falcon is equipped with lasers, and there is no shortage of laser shade coming from the crew of the Enterprise.
Absolutely. We find out lasers just don't cut it.
Nope. Not like phasers.
Laser cut.
You're supposed to move your arms like this when you say that.
Oh, right.
Sorry, hold on. Go ahead.
It looks
whole
like
delivery.
Lasers.
This
Don't
is
cut it.
I loved that part of it. Is like he's putting all the programming in terms of what he's learned. He's like, now do them all at once. And
Yeah.
he's holding the
Talking
cigar.
about Data and his B-plot storyline quest for comedy. But
Amazing.
Jake, what's the plot of this episode and this sexy hunk on his hunk of junk?
Wow.
A hunk of junk, or it's the junk's hunk. Yeah, I get it. The
I'll
Enterprise
take that
crew.
hunk's junk. He can't get it. Sorry, Mom.
There's a new competition to see how quickly in the episode you say "Sorry, Mom." The Enterprise crew rescue a roguish fighter captain. The Enterprise crew rescue a roguish freighter captain whose ship is malfunctioning, but his presence drags them into an interplanetary feud.
Wait, is he mischievous and irreverent and brazen?
I know, right? They literally
Sexy
define
radical.
him.
Yeah.
They define him as a rogue. It's
Right.
like, okay, well, we got him.
And when Troy first assesses his intentions, she is amused. Let me tell you. Can't believe he didn't visit her quarters.
I bet they did.
Yeah,
I bet he not, and she wasn't there. Yeah.
She's not one to kiss and tell.
He's specifically not allowed to go to different parts of the ships, and he is all over the ship.
Which quadrants can I go to? Room 808? Got it.
So just all the ladies' crew quarters? Is that what I'm to understand? Data defines him. Data throughout the episode defines all words by kind of like their synonyms or words that trying to define them. He says he's a cad, a knave, a rake, a rascal, a villain, a wild elephant was one I hadn't heard before.
Yeah. Out of nowhere.
Wow, that's
I can see it.
commenting on other things.
Yeah, I believe
That
so.
was in his notes from the ladies who've reviewed him. Sorry, Mom. So, my favorite part of when we first learn when he's teleported aboard and immediately hits on the transporter operator, but in a very sensual way.
Well, it happens even before that when he like overhears a communication with a transporter chief and just goes, "Is that a woman I hear?"
He heard how hot she was over 2 different audio channels because that's her intercom to the bridge, and then he hears it through the bridge through his viewer, right?
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, damn!" Like I could. Go.
Speaking of overhearing on the bridge, Worf really figured out how the mute button works. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
No, most of the time, they'll talk about someone who's over comms on another ship, and they'll just like be talking about them, and you kind of assume like maybe they have a remote and are muting. Who knows? But in this episode, they clearly use that mute button, and I think it's good.
Yeah, the job of a tactical officer is also that of a technical director, and they have to make sure that different audio channels are muted at different times. I don't know if Yar was especially trained in that skill, right?
Well, it's funny because originally on the Starship Enterprise, it would be the communications, which was Lieutenant Uhura's field. And that was sort of combined with security. And then we have Yar here in that case, who was opening hailing frequencies, which was pretty much her only line for a good chunk of episodes.
Security and communications feel like two completely different majors.
Right?
Go into entertainment, or you could go into law enforcement, and they're not the same, but they are the Starship Enterprise.
It makes me realize that I wonder if Uhura's station wasn't kind of a bit of an anachronism from when they made the shows in the 60s because of like phone operators being such a prevalent job. And I think that's like, oh, we have our space phone operator. And it's like, oh, well, that's not really a thing anymore. So we just combine it to Worf is on the front desk at all times.
Right. Well, what's interesting too, just to go into a bit of Star Trek lore, is if you go back to Enterprise, you can see Hoshi, who is sort of this intermediary, or actually the beginning of the communications station, because she was a polyglot, and could speak multiple languages and was good at picking up alien languages, which is why the station was created in the first place. Then with the translator, that kind of became moot as well.
Yeah.
You know, that's why a UBI is very useful in the future. We don't have money because jobs are roboticized, and you know who's reaping the benefits and who's paying the cost. Let me ask you. And drones were just passed as legal for Amazon. Just saying.
Wow.
Thank you for keeping that concise and within one subject. That was great.
It's as I'm known to do.
So we find out that Okona's ship is in trouble. His parts need repair, and he says you don't have to. They need maintenance, if you know what I mean.
Plenty of ladies are ready to maintain his parts on the USS Enterprise.
There's gonna be a lot of apologizing to your mother this episode.
Sorry, Mom.
So he agrees to come on board, and they allow him to just visit certain parts of the ship. But immediately upon entering the transportation room or transporter room, as you mentioned, Becca, he hits on our security or our transporter commander. Do you recognize that actor, by the way?
She seems familiar.
I'm surprised you didn't recognize her. That's Terry Hatcher.
Lois Lane.
Yes, Lois Lane.
Yeah.
Or is she Desperate Housewives as well?
Oh, I don't
She
know.
looks real good in a slinky red polyester number. That's all I know.
That's why she looks so familiar.
Oh yeah, that's Terry Hatcher. Let me see what else I can reference her for. But I know her as Lois Lane too. That's definitely right. Yeah. She was from Desperate Housewives. She was also a main star on that. So she actually is uncredited in this episode.
Oh
No, she had
Probably another reason.
rockets. That's weird.
Well, the reason she's uncredited is she requested it because she had other scenes that were cut. And so they weren't quite enough for her, I guess. I don't know the exact reason, but like that's what's listed as for her is that her character's name is B.G. Robinson. And there's actually a fair amount of stuff that was written about her that was in the original script that got cut out. And I'm not sure exactly why, but it's gone. I will say that I'm sure you'll appreciate this description, Becca. It's quite a doozy in terms of describing her character. It's, quote, the very feminine and graciously endowed transporter commander B.G. Robinson.
Okay.
Graciously endowed?
Everything she has,
Endowed.
get this, everything she has two of are perfectly matched, coordinated, and move with a wonderful grace that is called...
Ew.
Barf.
Oh, you're making my mom mad now.
Oh.
I know, right? So hot tip to anybody writing character descriptions. That's not a great one. Yeah.
Don't do that.
Try
She's perfectly symmetrical is a fine way to say that.
Yeah.
She's perfectly symmetrical.
You know,
That would be
symmetry
terrifying to
has
see a person that's perfectly symmetrical.
No, that's been a definition of beauty for like.
I know, but if it's
ancient
ever been
times.
accomplished, that I think the human eye would recognize that as really weird, and we would pick up on something being wrong. Like, because I think there's also what defines beauty is something that's not quite symmetrical sometimes.
Strong disagree, and it's why I'm always in a fight with my eyebrows.
Listen, it's all in the eyes of the beholder, buds.
Well, speaking of the eyes, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say my favorite line that wasn't written in this episode is Picard on the bridge saying something funny to Riker, and Riker says, "It's just that we found someone thirstier than I am, Captain."
Yeah. The one sort of misstep that I had, like, thing that felt weird for me with Riker and Wesley's relationship with Okona was this sort of like
Bro down?
Yeah, it was like Riker was encouraging Wesley to be like, "See, you could be like this too. Isn't this fun?" And Wesley was like the nerd and was like, "No, I'm going to choose family." And
Riker is trying to live vicariously through everybody. He wants to be the fuck boy that Okona just inherently is, and we thought Riker was a fuck boy, but we were wrong.
Right, now we met Okona.
Yeah. And Wesley is his next chance to live out that life.
That's true.
As a matter of fact, Billy Campbell, who plays the outrageous Okona, was one of the candidates to play William Riker, as a matter of fact, and made it pretty far in, and I think was one of the top choices of Gene Roddenberry. But
too young, too handsome.
I have a car alarm.
Sorry,
I can't
he's
get
too
that out.
perfect.
I hear it.
He appears to have excellent vision as well as a healthy libido.
I know, right?
Game recognized game.
So Billy Campbell, who some of you might recognize as the lead character from The Rocketeer. That's what I know him from my childhood.
I've never heard of it, so you should elaborate.
It's a Disney movie where a pilot in the 40s or 30s finds an experimental jetpack and becomes a helmeted superhero. Well, hero fighting Nazis. It's pretty fun. Really good classic movie.
Hey, love anything where Nazis die.
Yeah, plenty of them do, and in a fun blimp explosion as well. Spoilers.
Wow. It's okay.
He's also the first cousin of Bruce Campbell, noted B actor.
Whoa! Yeah. Evil Dead. Ash.
Yep.
And in case I didn't get clean audio for it, he was also one of the finalists to play William Riker, and in fact was one of the top picks of Gene Roddenberry. But it sounds like other executives or maybe even the studio overrode him and said that Frakes was better in terms of like he was a little heartier, or they said that Campbell was a little too quote unquote soft. Which I could kind of see that a little bit.
They didn't like the way he sat in chairs. He sat like a okay, final test. We've just got these chairs here. If you two gentlemen could both sit in these chairs at the same time. That one. I picked that one.
Yeah.
Riker maneuver.
Billy Campbell has a lot of charm and charisma just in how he walks and carries himself and says his lines. But it's sad that some of his lines are still another case of Star Trek where they're just kind of telling us what he is. He even says something to Geordi about like, I'm forced to add a measure of flamboyancy and zest to the doldrum of my existence.
Yeah. You gotta push his ship hard, okay?
But listen, I can believe it when you have that much time alone. He's just working on those lines and he's memorizing that over and over. When someone asks me, this is what I'm going to say.
That's a good point.
I'm going to sound so cool.
Well, Okona triggers our B plot line with Kamala.
Right.
Yeah, very barely. We kind of immediately divorce these plot lines very quickly, but yes, he does trigger it, and it's pretty much like him telling Data that he told a joke in case Data didn't get it, which he clearly didn't.
Yeah.
Well, Data had a lot of questions. Why are you so cool? I don't know. What do you mean love like the emotion or the act?
Right.
No, they're not, because I hooked up with Yar. Let's remember.
Everybody is instantly charmed by Okona. Like when he comes on board, obviously the transporter chief BG Robinson, but also Wesley is just like, what are you about? And then Data with intense questions the way you ask it. I was like, he's gonna bed Wesley. He's gonna bed Data. And even later on when Worf's after him and like Worf, he kind of semi-charms Worf. I was like,
and Geordi?
Worf growled at him in a very firm way. He's gonna bed everybody.
See, this is why he likes to travel alone, is because when you have so much power over people, it becomes meaningless. Mm-hmm. And yet he still has a heart of gold. I don't get it. He's perfect. You think there's going to be a twist and he's going to be a bad guy because he's so great?
Yeah, that is the twist.
No, he is so great.
Yeah. So let's talk about his perfection, because that's a Mary Sue thing, right? Is he a Mary Sue?
What's a Mary Sue?
So the trope.
So the trope Mary Sue. Now I was thinking about this, and I actually had read it amongst a number of other reviews that have gone over past episodes of Star Trek, and they're like, he's a Mary Sue. I was like, oh yeah, what is the exact definition of that word? Because I want to make sure I understand it. And then I went down a Wikipedia entry, and like, guess what? The phrase Mary Sue comes from a parody of Star Trek fan fiction.
What?
So here we go.
I've never heard of this before.
Really? Oh, okay. So a Mary Sue, according to Wikipedia, is a generic name for a fictional character who is so competent or perfect that this appears absurd, even in the context of the fictional setting.
Like me in real life. Got it.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that Okona's a Mary Sue, but he's close in that he really doesn't have any flaws. He just kind of does whatever he wants well, and nobody really dislikes him. So he's pretty darn close to it, right? There's no drama with him as a character. He always kind of gets away with it or explains it and comes out still a hero. And everybody idolizes
that Becca Ann.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll edit that on Wikipedia and we'll see how long it lasts.
Oh, yeah.
Please do.
So what happened was where the phrase comes from. Let's see. The term Mary Sue comes from the name of a character created by Paula Smith in 1973 for her parody story, A Trekkie's Tale, which was published in the fanzine Menagerie No. 2. It's satirizing unrealistic characters of Star Trek fan fiction. The story has this character literally named Mary Sue who boards the Enterprise and meets Captain Kirk, and Captain Kirk immediately is in love with her. She meets Spock and Bones. They all go on an away mission, and then she reveals in a moment of weakness that she's also half Vulcan. The men all get captured, and she has to run the Enterprise by herself. It's pretty much a glorifying of the writer's self on board their own fan fiction, and that's where Mary Sue apparently comes from.
Huh. Every day's a school day.
Don't worry. Every day is a school day. If I have an infographic, that's really going to help me.
How to tell if your character's a Mary Sue.
Oh, wow.
I would like to say that I pulled a card last night while celebrating the full moon, and it was of a mermaid riding a seahorse, and it said, be your best self. So that's how I'm feeling today.
Yeah. Wow.
Pisces or something. I don't know. We're in Pisces, and also it's Virgo season, and those things mean something related to my personality.
Yeah, I would just like to, for the podcast listeners, sort of describe this image that you've shared to us, how to tell if your character's a Mary Sue, because this is pretty much the defining two versions of a character that you could have. A sort of green-haired Neko Jin, cat person, versus an angelic goddess with a tiger, a dragon, and a wolf, and a unicorn, and a phoenix, I guess.
And she is winged, right?
Yeah. Too perfect, beautiful, popular, powerful, and talented. She can't be good at everything. Boring, without flaws, and therefore a Mary Sue. That looks pretty interesting to me, though.
It feels like the above descriptions of that picture are like archetypes of the things you'd find in that subculture, as opposed to the bottom description, which is just like, she has no flaws, therefore she's a Mary Sue. Which, I think that's what it is. It's just like, it's essentially me, and I have no problems.
Right. Could your greatest flaw be that you have no flaws? So you're responsible for things you never did?
Right.
Well, thankfully, the Okona has a very healthy libido, not a flawed one, and he starts exploring the ship. Meanwhile, Data goes to the holodeck and tries to learn about humor. Actually, he stops.
The funniest man alive.
He stops at 10 forward and gets some guidance from Guinan. So we just that.
Because Brent Spiner and Whoopi Goldberg together is just magic. I loved every scene that they had, and you could tell they just respected each other, and the acting was fantastic. And
I loved that moment where she's like, she explains the joke to him. And he's like, I didn't laugh. She's like, yes. That's it. You didn't laugh. You understand your problem. He's like,
yeah, you get it.
I agree.
Yeah, so good.
I laughed a lot at this episode, and I was ready to kind of wince, and I actually enjoyed the vast majority of the comedy training in this, even though part of that is showing how bad some comedy is, or hacky, or like even old school it is with the jokes and with the Jerry Lewis impersonation.
Yeah.
Turns out Jerry Lewis was asked to do this, and I think was booked to do it, and then he had a scheduling conflict, so they got Joe Piscopo. And for those of you who don't know Joe Piscopo, he's actually a Saturday Night Live actor who was on during the dark years, the years that weren't as good. And like,
I didn't know that.
Poor Joe.
He's a very talented impressionist and actor, and if you do watch that era of Saturday Night Live, he is a standout version of that for sure.
So you're saying that Joe Lewis impression, because once again, I don't know the reference.
Jerry Lewis.
Yep.
Right. You're saying that was an accurate impression by a very good impressionist?
Actually, that's Jerry Lewis's old shtick. And yes, he used to kill with that bullshit, if you can believe it. But that was 50, 60 years ago.
Let me walk on stage. Oh, I fell down. You're a robot coming on stage. Wow. That's comedy?
Star Trek is aware of it, because even Data's like, so you just put teeth in your mouth and look like an idiot and people love you? I was like, that's...
That was a harsh line from Data. And I was like, that seemed a little out of character, but funny.
I like that assessment because it's kind of true. You can do absurd, silly things and get a laugh. Yes, that doesn't make us laugh because we're not from that era, right? But pretty dumb stuff has made us laugh before, for sure.
I refuse to admit that.
Okay, well, I will be timing various farts throughout this podcast, and we will see.
Oh, no.
Oh, Steve, even at the suggestion of it, you broke.
No. I was making fart noise to make you laugh, stupid.
So you also enjoy it.
No, but I think this was a fun exploration, especially because you could tell that this was from comedy writers, or at least writers who thought of themselves as like holier than thou when it comes to the art of comedy. And so it was a lot of making fun of older styles of comedy, but they didn't really offer a solution for Data. I mean, it was fun to go on this journey, but it was sort of like, well, you'll never get it.
You know, can I just say that comedy is very easy. There's one rule to it. I can give you the secret right now.
Oh, here we go.
Surprise!
Oh,
I thought you were going to fart. I'm going to insert farts into your answer instead.
It is either fulfilling expectation or not fulfilling expectation. One of those two.
That's not but that we have to be able to tell that in an hour-long story. Like the thing is tackling, I don't agree necessarily that they're making fun of different forms of comedy so much. It's really trying to kind of explore it and be like, how do we dissect this? Because Jerry Lewis did kill with that way back when. And these jokes do sometimes still hit. And actually half of what Data says is technically funny, but obviously his timing is wrong or whatever is the fun. I laughed a lot at Joe Piscopo's lines, who, by the way, it sounds like he was allowed to improvise a lot of them. Yeah. Towards the end, even Guinan says, "You made a living doing this?" He goes, "Yes, I did."
Yeah.
Can I say, based on his haircut, I thought I was not going to like his character or his humor, and I was wrong.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, it definitely feels like 1990 for sure.
It's a mullet. It's definitely
glorious, and I love it. And like all of the audience's hair and style. Here for it. I love it.
I think it's really difficult to have the plot line to explore humor, like to define humor to a robot and explain it and be like, okay, now you have the facts, now make it happen. They make a great point in this, that it's a kind of a uniquely human thing. And I actually was kind of touched by that at the end. I was like, that's true. We don't have that anywhere else but humanity. So it is kind of hard to define still. I mean, Becca, you're right. It is about like the unexpected or the expected and defining those expectations, right? Or changing them on their head.
Right. May I say that if every B-plot were about Data trying to discover some part of humanity by connecting more deeply with the crew, I'd be here for it.
Well, buckle up.
For sure.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
Hey, but who is this man in trouble with? Because he can't be perfect everywhere.
Back to Okona.
Yeah. So after we leave Data and back with Okona, we are approached by a little ship that comes right up to us. And it's very Gulliver's Travel situation, apparently. Even Riker calls it out as one because we have little people with lasers. I love Worf's tone about it. Lasers.
Yeah.
Everybody's almost like, okay.
Picard was like the sassiest of all of them. Everyone's like, well, that won't do anything. It sure won't.
Okay, we get it. We know. We all know about lasers.
I appreciate this development actually because it doesn't put the Enterprise in peril so much as it just makes it a social situation, which there's enough Enterprise in peril episodes. It also makes the Enterprise it kind of makes it more of a character, and I always considered the Enterprise, the ship itself, to be a little bit of a character in the show. Whereas, like in the new movies, the J.J. Abrams movies, I always was a little frustrated that the Enterprise was constantly outmatched as well. Yes, in the background, but like everything they went up against destroyed them instantly. And it's like this: the Enterprise is supposed to be powerful. We're supposed to explore the things they
class.
Yeah. They're supposed to explore the things that necessarily the crew is going through, or they can't necessarily solve by sheer brute force of a galactic starship.
May I say, perhaps the lack of potency of the other ships is comedic, juxtaposed with the potency of Okona.
Ooh.
That was my data impression.
Very good.
Thank you.
Also, just one more note on that. Audience program off is definitely a mood for like quarantine comics right now. Just the room goes silent.
I love that they laughed at the suggestion that they were leaving too. He's like, audience program out, like, ah!
Great directorial choice.
So yes, it turns out two ships approach and they each have claim to Okona's head. They want him. And it turns out one group has a daughter that they believe has been impregnated by him. And the other group is missing a national treasure, I think is what they called it. No.
Mm-hmm. Or something like that.
Cage.
Yeah. The MacGuffin.
The MacGuffin, yeah.
Picard has the best line when he refers to this whole scandal as an ancient morality play.
Mm-hmm.
It comes back to honor, right? Honor is that thing that crops up in Star Trek once in a while of like, oh, another problem because it's this irrational code that's based on these arbitrary cultural decisions that we have to obey, right? And they're kind of always frustrated by it.
So archaic.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you mentioned with the daughter and the jewel, because there was also the son that was sort of wronged. And at first I was like, did he sleep with both of them? And they're both mad?
I still kind of assume he did. Like, to become friends with them is seduction for him, right?
Yeah. It's a Frankenfurter scenario.
Yeah.
Now, we don't know for a fact that he didn't sleep with both the daughter and the son from opposing factions. But turns out it's a Romeo and Juliet situation, which I definitely called before it happened.
Oh yeah? Mm-hmm. Was it when Romeo said like you can't marry her, and his dad's like I'm fine with this. Like, that's not what I'm talking about.
Actually, it was when our Okona said, everyone assumes I'm the father. And I was like, that means you're not, dude. That means you're not. You use protection. You know your shit. You wrap your junk.
Listen, you don't get to be roguelike without, a few incidents along the way. So he knows what he's doing, and it is safe.
He's really pro here. Come on.
Yeah.
And you know what I appreciated with all his seduction was it was always consensual. It was always like, look, you know I've used this line before, but it's not about that. It's about the warmth we share and the mutual attraction, right?
It's like, you're way in my personal space bubble, but you know what? Whatever.
Get in there. That's fine.
But I want you.
So Worf is sent to go fetch this troublemaker and bring him to the bridge. And man, there's like several shots of Worf just like
in the turbo lift.
Yeah.
And Worf reaches him at yet another crew member's quarters and manages to get him out. And man, they give each other a steely look that Worf growls about. And what does Okona say? He says like, sometime.
I didn't know what it took to drag me away from you.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good line.
To Worf, he says something about like, we will, or like promising the unspoken thing that Worf is like glaring at him, which I think is implying a fight, but to me is implying Klingon sex, really.
For sure, which is the same thing.
Yeah, for sure. And let's see, there's a lot of stalling, but eventually we bring these people on board. We find out the Romeo and Juliet situation, and Okona is still a good guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's not at fault. In fact, he's not even at fault. He also helped bring these two together and was
hero
ferrying them across. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's funny because Star Trek is one of the few shows that can get me excited about the conference room scene. Just finally get them all in one room.
Ooh, a conference room.
Yeah.
Yanar is the name of the young woman who is pregnant. And I'm really wondering, is transporting good for pregnancy? Is that, there's a lot of sensitive things.
Yeah.
I just want to know, is that on the list of do not transport?
I think you would get along with Dr. Pulaski very well.
Mm.
Or Barkley, or is that his name?
Barclay? Yeah.
Barclay, yeah. We'll get to him.
Pulaski wasn't in this episode, but sorry, I just had a thought earlier, which was if Crusher were here, there would have been a moment. That would have been a scene. Yeah. Crusher is Okona's type, vice versa.
For sure.
Okona definitely charmed me, and especially that low-cut shirt and all, but then when the ponytail came into camera frame, I was like,
a fit pony.
They couldn't edit that out of the HD version. Like that would maybe improve the picture, right?
You're not wrong.
His hair's so good up to that point, and it's like, he's carrying that thing around.
Yeah, but I will say
that prevented him from having like an awkward mullety fringe, like we're seeing on Worf in your back.
Yeah.
That everybody had.
Yeah.
The rest of his costume was badass, though. I really liked his outfit.
He's very like almost Aladdin / Indiana Jones like
totally.
combo.
What I was into at that era too.
Yeah.
And what's changed?
Nothing. Zero. This is speaking of hair journeys. This is also the Page Boy era of Worf's hair. So just keep an eye on that thing.
Yeah, Worf's hair evolves quite a bit throughout the series, as I recall. Becca, speaking of transporter issues for pregnant women, do you know about like the theory of transporter safety that has kind of been talked about outside of Star Trek in terms of like the internet and stuff?
Well, we've definitely murdered everyone who's ever been transported.
Okay, we have talked about this. Okay, cool.
Rebuilt them, yeah.
Yeah, we just rebuild them down there, right? So I guess the same would go for a pregnant woman, right? It's still molecules, just in a different state.
There's definitely a dimension where it's just like corpses of everything that's ever been transported. It's very Rick and Morty. It's very Rick Sanchez thing to do.
Yeah,
he has done it.
Oh God!
All right, well, let's not explore that episode. So we pretty much resolved the Okona plotline. We go back to the holodeck to see if Data's learned anything. Data looks good in a tux.
Yeah,
I like his coloring on that. That's great.
I can't imagine though him sitting in the makeup chair for that long, having the yellow uniform on, and then putting a tux jacket on top of that. It's like woof.
Yeah, for sure. And he does his best, and he succeeds. He succeeds so much that he realizes that his success isn't actually based on his own talent. It's based on the fact that he's in an algorithm, and the algorithm's built to respond to whatever he says.
I wonder about that every day of my life.
Yep.
You think we're an algorithm?
I do. No big deal. That's topic for another episode.
Drop an existential bomb and be like, never mind.
Oh, well, yeah. In the Truman Show.
Yeah, it's too existential. We can't go there.
So you're in the Truman Show. So we're in like our, 4th season or whatever. And we're like 4th season replacements for other characters in your life?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, I renegotiated my contract, so.
That's true. You're on for another. Oh, I am also the producer.
Right.
Watch it.
Produced your own existential crisis.
Yeah.
I never said crisis.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Awareness.
Existential awareness.
Yeah. Well, and Data learns that it's not so easy, but it's something we're going to work on, right? Guinan says it's, we got to develop this.
Right.
And that's pretty much where he leaves it. Like, he doesn't really learn much of anything. I think he learns a little bit about like attempting, because at the very end of the episode, he tries to drop a few and it doesn't work.
No, he crushed it on one.
Yeah, he crushed it on the first one unintentionally, right?
Right. The say goodbye, Data.
Goodbye, Data.
And he didn't know that was a joke.
Right. But that's what makes it funny.
Started spewing out jokes, right?
Jake, that's the comedy. It was a surprise.
Whoa.
Yeah.
But take my Worf. No.
I appreciate that he's trying to make his own version of the joke. Like, instead of just saying take my wife, which he doesn't. Actually, that might be funnier. If he says take my wife and he doesn't have a wife there.
Yeah.
Anyway. Well, let's say goodbye, Jake and Xander.
Goodbye, Jake and Xander.
Goodbye, Captain Okona.
But come to my room, though. Seriously, after hours.
Well, don't worry. I am going to find Billy, whatever his name is. Campbell. Right, Bruce's.
You need to watch The Rocketeer. I'd be interested to see if it holds up. It's still like a family kids movie, but like it's pretty solid as I remember.
Can't wait. On my list, I'm going to find Billy Campbell's email address and email him this episode so he knows.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, our next episode is Loud as a Whisper. The Enterprise brings a deaf negotiator to mediate the end of a planetary civil war. Now, just to be clear, I didn't just mention that they're a deaf person as a detail. That's actually a central plot point of the episode. So I'm interested to explore that.
Yeah.
Sweet. Let's hope they do it good.
Sweet.
Let's all say goodbye, Captain Okona.
Goodbye.
Bye,
It
Captain
doesn't work as a
Okona.
joke if you're not telling Captain Okona.
That's perfect. Thank you. That was exactly it.
Audience program off.
There we go.